What is codependency? And do you have codependent issues? Or maybe the most important question to ask is what to do about it if you do have some codependent issues. So in order to address all these three questions, today's video will be divided into three parts. And the first one is, what is codependency? The second one, 12 characteristics of codependency. And the last one, 2 principles of healing. Welcome to Peace with Grace. I am Grace, a counselor and a life coach. So let's dive into this topic. The first aspect, what is codependency? Codependency, unfortunately, doesn't have a universally agreed on definition among the professionals. Because it's such a complex problem, it's hard to define it in a simple term. But I have a favorite version of definition of codependency, and it's actually very simple. It goes like this. A codependent person is someone who allows other people's behavior to affect him or her, and who is obsessed with managing others' behaviors. So this definition can be divided into 2 parts. The first one is codependent people allow others' behavior to affect us. So we don't live in a bubble. We are social beings, of course, right? We are going to be affected by other people. But the extent that our codependent people are affected by others' behavior are just so intense. We don't like other people to be angry at us. We don't like other people misunderstand us. But for codependent people, not only that, we don't like it. We just couldn't stand it. Right? To the extent that we feel like we have to do something to change this situation. That would lead to the second part of this definition. That means our codependent people are obsessed with managing other people's behaviors. So back to these 2 scenarios. So the first one, if someone is angry at us, we feel like we really need to go out of a way to apologize, to make peace, to pacify them, and to even please them, to make sure that they no longer feel angry at us. Or the second scenario, if we feel someone misunderstands us, especially if someone is very dear and near to us, and we will go out of a way to explain to them where we come from and why we do what we do in the way we do it, until we can arrive at the same page. Otherwise, we probably couldn't sleep well at night. So that's the extent that our codependent people suffer from being affected by other people's behaviors. So in short terms, codependence means that we dependent on other people's approval, on other people's behaviors, on other people's love. So if you use one word to describe our codependent people's behavior, what word would you be using? The word I would be using is react. We codependent people react to other people's pain. We react to other people's needs. We react to other people's emotions. We react to other people's pressure. We react to other people's problems. We react, and continue to react. So we react instead of act. So what's the difference between act and react? Act comes out of choice. We choose to do the things we do, or we choose not to do certain things we don't want to do. That's called choice. But on the other hand, react comes from a lack of choice. We feel like we have to do such a thing. We have to please other people. We have to help other people. We have to, and we have to. Why do we have to? Now, one of the most precious gifts God gave us is free will. God doesn't even force us to believe in Him. So free will is very precious. In the past 3 years, unfortunately, a lot of us have experienced restricted free will, or should I say, taken away free will. But unknown to many of our codependent people, actually our internal free will has been restricted even more for a long time. We do not act out of our free will of choice. We react because we don't think we have choice. All right, let's move on to the second aspect, 12 characteristics of codependency. So you may wonder, how do I know if I have codependent issues? So I think it might help if you try to identify if you have any of these below 12 characteristics. They are, first one, caretaking. Second, low self-worth. Third, repression and obsession. 4, controlling. 5, denial. 6, dependency. 7, poor communication. 8, weak boundaries and lack of trust. 9, anger. 10, intimacy issues. 11, miscellaneousness. 12, progressiveness. You may recognize some of these characteristics quite easily, but also at the same time you will wonder, what does progressiveness means? Right? What are some of the words means? I'm so glad you asked. Because this video is only an introduction of this new series of video. So after this, I will begin to make another 12 videos to break down the details of each characteristic of codependency. And we will go through a checklist about each characteristic to see how it looks like in action. So that will help you even more to identify if you have some of these codependency issues. Okay, let's move on to the last aspect, 2 principles of healing. So before you are eager to jump to my next video, I think it's probably quite essential to give you some principles of healing. These 2 principles are compassion and patience. So the first one, compassion. So when you go through all the characteristics of codependency, you probably will recognize quite some. You will say, oh, this looks like me. Oh, that's me. Oh, that's definitely me. So along this process, it's not very, it's really eye-opening, but at the same time, it's probably not very pleasant to realize we actually have suffered many of the issues, right? All the things we used to do actually are problematic, right? But I wanted to tell you there is nothing wrong with you, right? And that doesn't mean that we are bad or inferior, because most of us learned these behaviors when we were young, when we were just a child, in order to survive in a dysfunctional family environment. By the way, my definition of dysfunctional means less than nurturing. So basically that means every family. And also some of us learned this codependent behavior based on some wrong interpretation of religion. For example, we think that good Christian means that being a good doormat. Right? So no matter when and how we learned all these codependent behaviors, it's just out of necessity to protect ourselves, to meet our needs when we were young. And as a famous counselor said, codependency is a way of getting our needs met that doesn't get our needs met. So in other words, we have been doing the wrong things for the good reasons. We have been really coping well with the knowledge we had. But now our eyes have been opened to see actually the coping strategies we have used since we were young are no longer useful for us as an adult, especially as a functioning adult. But remember, we do it out of protection, out of necessity, out of survival need. So be compassionate toward yourself as you're going through this journey. By saying that, also, do you know the definition of insanity? Insanity is keep doing the same thing but expecting a different result. We have been using the same coping strategy since when we were 3 years old, right? It's probably worked well when we were a child, but does it still work now? I think probably not. We probably get tired of constantly have to pleasing other people and experience the emotional roller coaster all the time because other people's attitude toward us. So we need to change. But change is a process. That's led to our second principle of healing, which is patience. We learned all these codependent behaviors, probably not overnight. And overcoming all these old habits probably will take more than 1 day or even 2 days. Like I mentioned, it's a process. It starts from identifying it and then move to accept it. And then deal with it. And then move to struggle through it. And lastly, we will come to the point of recovering from it. So be patient with yourself. And the fact that you stayed thus far in this video, that's already shown me your commitment to discovering the truth, to see what's going on with your life. As I always told my clients in my counseling sessions, awareness is the first step of healing. So today, you have taken the most courageous and most difficult step of healing, which is called the first step. So congratulations. All right, let's just summarize the 3 aspects of this video again. The first one, what is codependency? So codependent people are those who allow others' behavior affect them and who are obsessed with managing people's behaviors. So the second, 12 characteristics of codependency. We have gone through a list of these 12 characteristics. But as I mentioned, I will break down each characteristic in a separate video after this. And the third aspect is 2 principles of healing, which are compassion and patience. So my question to you is, how many characteristics have you identified? So if you like, just feel free to leave the number down at the comment area. I would love to hear from you. And next video, we will move on to the first characteristic, which is caretaking. So see you then.